Alright, class, simmer down, simmer down. Watching YouTube. Okay, class, today we will be starting the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
What is that?
Of course you would ask that. The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy is a book by Douglas Adams, published in 1978. It was also produced in 1978 as a radio drama.
So is the piece a part of the contemporary era of literature?
Precisely. Now, class, what can you tell me about Douglas Adams or the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy? And please make it somewhat smart.
No problem.
Emily, how about you?
Well, Douglas Adams was an English writer, humorist, and dramatist who wrote in the genres sci-fi, comedy, and satire.
Very good explanation. Emily, anything else you guys can tell me?
Douglas Adams wanted the book to seem fresh and relevant by never specifying the year it took place.
That is very true as well. And can anybody tell me why this was such a popular book? Yes?
HHG was so popular because of its quirkiness, which was well received by the nerds and geeks of that generation, which allowed it to become a cult book.
Excellent. I'm very impressed you know what a cult book is. And now, students, you will need to read the HHG before next class, because we will be reviewing it, and in 2 weeks, we will more than likely have a test. In the beginning of The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, Arthur Dent's house is in jeopardy. Bulldozers have come to knock down his house for the sake of progress, also known as a freeway bypass. So to stop progress, he goes and lies in front of the bulldozers, so that the bulldozers could not knock down his house. The foreman of the project attempts, to no avail, to convince Arthur to move by claiming that the plans have been on display for months, and Arthur could have filed a formal complaint at any time. Arthur rebuffs this comment by stating that he only learned of the plans the previous day, and when he learned of these plans, he went to the planning office, and he did find those plans, but they were tucked in a locked cabinet in the basement bathroom behind a sign that said, "Beware of the leopard." At this point, we are introduced to Ford Prefect, a friend of Arthur's. However, there is something that Arthur does not know about his friend, namely, that Ford is an alien from the vicinity of Betelgeuse, and the only reason why he is on Earth was to research for the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Ford drops by Arthur's house, demanding that Arthur join him for a drink. In the following dialogue, Ford manages to convince the foreman to take Arthur's place in the mud, so that Arthur's house will not be torn down. When they get to the bar, Ford orders 6 pints of beer, calling it a muscle relaxant. Ford then explains to the confused Arthur that the world as they know it will be ending here soon. Here we go. Overhead, there are huge spacecrafts, the Vogon constructor fleet. The only person on Earth who has the slightest inkling of their presence is Ford. The Vogons announce to Earth that the Earth is to be demolished for the construction of a hyperspatial express route, aka Progress. The Vogons claim that the plans have been on display on Alpha Centauri, the local planning department, for 50 years. This creates parallelism with the Earth and Arthur's house. The Earth is then destroyed by the Vogon. Meanwhile, on the other side of the galaxy, Zaphod Beeblebrox, the president of the Imperial Galactic Government, is unveiling a top-secret project, the Heart of Gold spaceship. Zaphod then proceeds to steal the Heart of Gold, along with Trillian, a girl he picked up on another planet. We then head back to Ford and Arthur, who manage to survive the destruction of the Earth by hitching a ride on the Vogon fleet flagship, name unknown and completely irrelevant. The problem is that the Vogons hate hitchhikers. So how did they get a ride? Ford and Arthur are led aboard by the Dendrasi, the cooks for the Vogons. The Dendrasi love to annoy the Vogons, so they let aboard hitchhikers and hide them in a small cabin. Ford explains all of this to Arthur and also gives him the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy so that he stops asking questions and can learn for himself. Ford also places a babelfish into Arthur's ear. This fish allows Arthur to understand any language spoken in the known galaxies. The Vogons sadly discover Ford and Arthur. As punishment for hitchhiking, the captain of the Vogon fleet decides to read them poetry. Very gruesome, right? Well, according to the HHG, Vogon poetry is one of the worst types of poetry in the known galaxy, and on no account should you allow a Vogon to recite poetry to you. After being subjected to poetry torture, Ford and Arthur are thrown out into deep space. According to the HHG, if one is thrown into deep space, they may survive approximately 30 seconds, and the odds of being saved by a passing ship are 2 to the power of the infinitesimally large number in front of you to 1. Arthur and Ford are saved by a ship that is powered by the infinite improbability drive. This ship drives to a portion of space known as improbability. Basically hyperspace on steroids. This ship is known as the Heart of Gold. Yes, the same ship that Zaphod Beeblebrox and Trillian stole earlier in the book. This information is discovered by Arthur and Ford when a clinically depressed robot named Marvin, who is interestingly foiled by the improbability drive itself, who is the most upbeat AI we will ever meet. Well, anyways, Marvin comes and takes Ford and Arthur to the control room. And as it turns out, the universe is rather small, because Ford already knows Zaphod because they are cousins, and Arthur knows Zaphod and Trillian because he was at a party where Zaphod and Trillian met and been attempting to work up the nerve to talk to Trillian the entire night of the party. Later on, Zaphod reveals that he has found Magrathea, a planet that was lost in legend. According to the Hitchiker's Guide, Magrathea was once home to an industry that built custom-designed planets for the universe's more well-off. They then approach Magrathea, and an answering machine informs the travelers that Magrathea is closed for business and requests they leave. As they continue on, the same machine informs the Heart of Gold crew that 2 guided missiles are headed for the ship. The group attempts to evade the missiles, however cannot. Arthur then turns on the improbability drive. The missiles are then turned into a whale and a bowl of petunias. These items then fall to the surface of the planet. The group then lands and exits the ship. The whale falling to the surface of the planet created a crater, also opening a hole that leads into the ground. Arthur and Marvin, the depressed robot, decide to stay on the surface, while the rest, Ford, Zaphod, and Trillian, go into the hole to explore. While exploring the tunnels, they stumble into a cavern where they are trapped, and a gas pours in, and they fall unconscious. We then return to Arthur, who has left Marvin behind, and is now exploring the surface of the world. While exploring, he meets a Magrathean named Slartabartfast. For convenience, we shall call him Dr. S. Dr. S then takes Arthur to the factory floor. While on the factory floor, Dr. S reveals to Arthur that a new Earth is in creation. Dr. S then proceeds to explain that the original Earth was an organic computer commissioned by mice who happened to have ran the planet and used it to conduct experiments on men. He then proceeds to explain why the mice commissioned the Earth in the first place. Long, long ago, some intelligent beings created a computer whose sole purpose was to find the answer to life, the universe, and everything. After 7.5 million years, the computer concluded that the answer was 42. However, the computer could not determine the exact question of which 42 answered. However, the computer designed another computer that could determine the question. Inception style, really. This computer was Earth, and it included all the creatures that lived upon Earth except for the mice. The program that Earth ran would last 10 million years. However, the problem was Earth was destroyed only minutes before it came up with the correct answer. Now the mice needed a new computer. We now return to Zaphod, Ford, and Trillian, who awaken from the gas that they were subjected to, and after they are fully awake, a man enters the room and announces that the mice will see them now. Zaphod, Ford, and Trillian are then reunited with Arthur, who has also been brought to see the mice. While meeting with the mice, the group discovers that the mice want Trillian's and Arthur's brains because they believe that the answer is hidden within them. Naturally, the group attempts to escape this fate because it meant losing their brains. The problem is that the only way out is blocked by armed guards. Just as they attempt to make a run for it, an alarm sounds. This alarm is the intruder alarm. Basically, it is a voice saying that a hostile ship has landed on the planet. The group escapes, and the mice decide to make up the question. The intruders turn out to be the next problem. They are cops that have come to arrest Zaphod. Cops begin to fire on Zaphod, but improbably their life support systems fail. The group then makes their way back to the Heart of Gold, where they discover that the cop's ship had committed suicide after speaking with Marvin. They then leave Magrathea and decide to go to the restaurant at the end of the universe, so suggested by none other than Ford and Zaphod. Class, welcome to our review of the Hitchiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Today, I want you to notice that the HHG is a farce, or a type of comedy where stereotypical characters are placed in far-fetched situations. Another thing is that the story is full of situational irony, for example, the use of denotation, or the true meaning of words and the misunderstanding of those words. For example, Ford's usage of the word cool while they are aboard the Vogon ship.
So now that we've reviewed the book and everything else, what can you guys tell me about the major themes of the book?
Right here, Mr. Rich. A major theme of Hitchiker's Guide to the Galaxy would be absurdity, and another one is digression.
What makes these a major theme of the book? And please tell me what digression is. We both know I don't like being left out on words, especially new ones.
I think you know this one, Mr. H. That'd be like talking about one thing and then randomly getting off topic and talking about something else, like you do all the time.
Hey now! I do not digress. I merely jump on random topics because of your side conversations and your texting.
Whatever you say, Mr. H.
Anyways, continue.
The themes of absurdity and digression are major because they are seen throughout the book. Absurdity is in almost every single line and contributes to the satire and the comedy. Digression is also seen throughout the book and also adds to increase the background information you get on the characters and situations.
Alright, can anybody else tell me another theme of the book?
Also, another theme of the book is language of communications, or lack thereof. Even with the babelfish, which was a symbol for the lack of communication, because even though the fish translated all languages the speaker's natural language, they did nothing to help with all of their miscommunication, because they could not change the dictionaries of their hosts.
Very, very good. And speaking of the babelfish, what are some other symbols that were in the book? And how did they play a major part of the story?
Honestly, I don't know.
Who's the smart aleck?
Show me.
Is there anybody else? Yes.
Wasn't food and drink a major symbol?
Yes, it was. And can you tell me why?
Because it provided a correlation between the Earth and the galaxy, making the galaxy seem a lot like Earth. They also tied certain people with the galaxy with certain places.
That was beautiful. Well done. Can somebody please tell me a little bit about each of the major characters in the book? Yes.
Arthur Dent is one of the four main protagonists in the story. He is incredibly human and is portrayed as a weak, unknowledgeable human that thinks digital watches are a good idea. Ford, her prefect, is another protagonist. Ford is seemingly eccentric and quirky behavior is him the alien from a planet around Beetlejuice. Zaphod Beeblebrox is the president of the galaxy and is rather a worthless politician that steals the heart of gold. Trillian is Zaphod's lover and helps Arthur and Ford on their adventures. She is the brains behind Zaphod's operations. These four characters are the most important to the book.
Very good explanation, despite the numerous distractions. I would add nothing more to this except for the one fact that digital watches are a very good idea. Well, I may be nice, but the probability of me being nice is equivalent to Hitchiker being saved in the galaxy. aka not very high.
Hi everybody. Well, that was fun. Listen, if you've ever actually seen the movie Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, then you'll know my character, Ford, always carries around a towel with him. Because, like, well, duh, why would you ever leave the house without your towel? Anyway, I was very unhappy when I figured this fact out because our wonderful producers, Isaiah and Abby, hi guys, decided to not give me a towel. Seriously, how hard would this have been? It's a towel. Thanks a lot. So, also, tilde. You don't know what that means, you don't need to. Inside joke, not a big deal, just had to say it. So, that's all folks. Have a good night, and whatever you do, don't panic.